Ryan writes in the dojo chat, I'm using both Wiley and Ninja. Should I be completing the assessment questions in Wiley or skipping those to get through the material and then move on to the MCQ and Ninja? I feel like I'm spending a lot of time on the MCQs and Wiley. I'm getting a little behind in the material. I'm not a fan of assessment questions. I'm a fan of questions in study mode. So, well, I don't know how the Wiley adaptive learning works, but in Ninja, when you're working questions in study mode, you answer the question, you get the feedback, but then the software starts to accumulate what you know, what you don't know. I'm not a fan of assessment questions unless you automatically get the feedback right away. Like, hey, you answered A is incorrect. Here's why. Versus it's almost like if the assessment questions are more like a practice test, we don't get that immediate feedback. Not a fan of that. I would rather skip it or something like that. So if you're using Wiley and Ninja, nail the concepts with your Wiley videos. And if it's your first time through with Wiley and Ninja, then use the Wiley test bank for your nonstop MCQ. And then in your review, when it all comes together, then you switch to the Ninja MCQ for your final review. If there's a retake, you've already taken this exam with Wiley, then for the nonstop MCQ, you want to use Ninja MCQ for that because you've likely already memorized a lot of the Wiley test bank questions. So that's how I would do that. Steve says, sim scoring question on Sims with journal entries. Does the order of entries matter for scoring? No, I do not believe it is. I don't know exactly how the AI CPA does it, but I think there's a lot of grace on the order of things, especially when you're filling in the blanks or whatever, because otherwise everyone would just get murdered on exam day. And so I think there's a lot of leeway there. Now, programmatically, how they do that, I don't know, but I don't believe that the order. I mean, obviously, you want your debits first. I would do your debits and then your credits. You know, debit, credit, or debit, credit. I would obviously do that the right way, but I don't think order matters. Just a guess, but that's my gut feel on that. Andrew in the chat, I can vouch for practicing MCQs rather than practicing Sims. For FAR, I was able to put the pieces together with the Sims from just understanding the basic concepts from the MCQ. And Jolly in the dojo chat, I'm getting in the range of 65 plus in auditing. I'm assuming this is your trending score or just your sessions in general. What should I do to up my game? Well, if you're struggling conceptually with an area, might be a good idea to kind of hit pause. I wouldn't go back and reread the Ninja book because but I would either hit the Ninja notes over the area, or I would do like a set of 20 where you just kind of read the answers, but then you're also kind of just killing your training score. Or you can go back in, hit pause and go back and watch Ninja Sparring, hit that topic for an hour or two, and then jump back into your MCQ. Christy in the chat, after 3 years, I chose to pick up the CPA exam again. Was able to pass FAR, auditing, and BEC the first time, above 80% each using Becker and Ninja. I took regulation in July and failed with a 67. Any advice or words of encouragement for a retake? Well, the good news is you know how to study and you know how to pass, you know how to perform on exam day. Like, you've got that. So it just happens that regulation is just your exam that you struggle with. We all have an exam that we struggle with. We all have an exam that we just kind of hate. Tax just really clicks with my brain. I hated BEC. So you sound like you skated through BEC pretty easily. But regulation is the one that you are struggling with. That's okay. And so because regulation is just kind of a different beast, it's tax and business law, and it's kind of a mess. It's like, how do you know what to study? Because there's some overlap in the tax topics, like maybe just the concept of basis overlaps. Obviously, basis is different among the entities, but just the general concept of basis overlaps, and deductions, etc. Whereas, you have agency law and contracts, blah 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 blah. It's just a separate type of animal. And so do everything. So how do you retake for regulation? You do everything that you did to get that 67. And then you need to make some tweaks. So if there were different, so you're using Becker CPA review plus Ninja. If there were some Ninja weaponry that you didn't use before, so maybe you just didn't use the Ninja audio the first time because you just hate the audio, hate the sound of my voice, etc. Maybe it's time to use the Ninja audio. If you didn't attend any live sparring sessions or you didn't watch any sparring replays, it's time to do that. If you didn't rewrite the Ninja notes, it's time to do that. If you're like me and you just refused to study like-kind exchanges with a liability swap, it's time to do that. And so that was my story. 74 on regulation, and lost my FAR credit. I was stubborn, didn't want to study AMT, didn't want to study like-kind exchanges, and cost me. Lost my FAR credit. I was like, you know what? I'm actually going to study that stuff. And I did everything that I did to score those 74s. Plus, I hit those areas that I just kind of hated. Then I scored a 92. Not because I'm a genius, but because the tax stuff just clicks for me, and I really just followed what's now the Ninja framework. So that's my advice for a retake. Don't assume that you're a few points away. Even if you scored a 74 in regulation, don't assume that you're 1 point away, because you're not. Now, your exam day was 4 weeks ago. You're 75 points away today. So we have to restudy everything, repeat the process over and over, and then add something for your retake. Hope that's helpful, Christy.